Hey guys, Trevor again here with another interview from one of our members. Now, this member actually reached out to me just last week with a very touching email that I got. Michelle only just joined the group at the start of June, so very, very new. Probably hasn't had time to go through all the different parts of our group yet and see all your wonderful stories, but I just had to reach out to her in regards to the email that she sent me, and I invited her to have a chat with us to share a very touching moment that happened to her just recently, I think at the start of this year. So I'd like to welcome everybody to Michelle Smith. Hey Michelle, how are you today?
Hey everybody, good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Trevor.
Not a problem. Now, I believe that you also live in beautiful Queensland, up in Brisbane. I'm on the Gold Coast, so we've got a beautiful sunny day outside, but still cold.
You do? Yes. Hence the hoodie.
Yes. I haven't got my hoodie on. I thought I'd just rug it out. I'm from Victoria originally, so I thought I'd just rug out the coldness. I'm getting a little bit more climatized up here. I do have a hoodie close by just in case it gets cold.
Well, anything under 30 degrees to me is cold, so.
I noticed that when I first came up. It was like, oh my goodness, it's 30 degrees outside and people have got jumpers on, and I'm like, for the first couple of years, I just walked around in shorts and t-shirt. I'm like, this is stifling hot. I think my wife never
my
turned
husband's from Scotland, so he's the same. He still wears like jumpers and stuff like that. So
yeah, I don't think my wife turned off the aircon for the first 2 years. Moving
it's
on.
worth the power bill though.
Yeah, Power Bill loved us, actually. He loved us big time. So, like I do with all people who's come on as a interview, tell me a little bit about your father. He served in Vietnam. What unit and what years did he serve?
So Dad was with 5RA Sea Company. He deployed in February 1969.
69. Yeah. I think my dad got back
so
in.
second tour 5RA.
Okay. Oh, my dog's barking. Lovely. That's all that you want on an interview, isn't it? There they go. They're barking away. Let them have some fun. Yeah, my dad served in 68 to 69, so
Okay.
just past that. So excellent. And so growing up with a Vietnam veteran, as a father, geez, they're annoying, those dogs.
I've got two, so it's all good.
They say never work with children or animals, and
This
I don't have children here, but I've got animals, and oh my God. Anyway, look, growing up with a dad as a Vietnam vet, I'm sure there were some challenges there, like everyone. Would you care to explain or how it affected, or firstly, how did you find our group and what made you decide to join our group, and then maybe lead on to growing up with a dad who served
Sure. Okay, so I think over the years, like when Dad first passed, which was in 1998, we sort of, because he didn't talk about stuff a lot, hardly ever, unless he had more than his usual beers. And then, he would say stuff which would, it would curl your toes, some of the things he'd say. But so from there, we sort of really tried to latch on and find out things about his past and how things were for him and what it was like. And then we, because I think I'm one of, three girls. I'm the oldest. We sort of, by that stage, like we were in our early 20s when Dad passed. So then marriage, kids, all that sort of stuff. So we kind of ups and downs, things would come and be Dad's birthday and you go, oh yeah, what about this? And you'd go rummaging through and you'd find an old postcard or something like that. And then by accident, one of Dad's old mates had just sort of run into him and had a bit of a chat, and he pointed us on to 5RA have their own Facebook page and all this sort of stuff, and they've got their own newsletter. So we joined that and would get information every now and then. And then with Facebook, I don't use it a lot, but I think with the reunion coming up, we knew I'd seen something pop up on Facebook because we joined the 5RA group, and yeah, kind of then other people comment, and then they might share something from another group onto this group, and that's how I found your group.
Right.
Somebody
Okay.
had shared something, and I was like, oh wow, like I didn't even know this existed. And like you said, I didn't get a chance to sort of flick through everything because I kind of just, I was emotional when I first found it, and I sort of grabbed hold of it and thought, all right, I'm not one to blast my life over Facebook, so I did the personal message and just said, like, hey, this is sort of my story, and I don't know, maybe it might be useful to somebody else.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things that it's your own personal story and so touching to you, and you think, well, will people actually want to listen to this, or will it affect other people? 15 years ago, just to give you a little bit of history, 15 years ago, I came up with this idea of doing a documentary. And I sat down and I spoke to my dad about it, and he actually said, if you do this, I'm going to disown you as a son from my family. And I went, whoa. Because he took it personally. He thought I was saying that he was a bad father, which is completely out of the case. There is, of course, some of his characteristics and everything that led to me feeling a bit different and feeling like isolated from some of my friends, and they grew up with really close dads, and my dad was there physically close but not emotionally close. So I buried it for some time until just December this year, where I started the groups and started to share it out and posted up my story. I'm like, all I really want to do is to find if there was other people out there, if there's actually worthwhile to do a documentary on this, and being inundated with stories and members, and oh man, it's just been mind-blowing. And some of the stories are just crazy.
Oh yeah, that's one. I think when the person that shared it, and there was a couple of comments in there, and somebody mentioned something about, they realize that they do this because it's something that their dad did, and because of being a serving veteran, and it sort of was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, maybe that's why I do that. I didn't sort of never made the connection. And I was
like, what characteristics are you referring to?
It was just things like being ready to go and being organized and having everything like just like, yeah, that's
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and lockdown, like at night it was make sure the house is locked up, the lights are off, the dogs, like everything was secure. And I do that here. I will not go to bed with windows open. Got to make sure the gates shut, all sorts of things.
And ready to go. Is it like 15 minutes early is too late?
That's exactly right.
Come on. I mean, no one other than COVVs understand this. My wife is like, you're joking me, aren't you? Why are you leaving now? And I'm like, because I have to. It's the rule.
Yeah, that's it exactly. So, that was just a couple of days ago when I first found the group, and it was like, that's it. I felt like I found my people.
Yeah, there's been so many people like yourself who have joined up and haven't shared their story, out there for the whole group to see. But I have been getting so many messages of people who write, and they go, look, in due course, I will feel more comfortable maybe to share. I'll read some of the posts first, and you know what? This isn't a race. It doesn't mean like if other people feel more comfortable to write their story up now that you need to do it. It's one of these things that it is touching, it is personal to you, so you need to feel comfortable into doing so. And if anyone else who's listening to this feels like they just want to reach out to tell me something about their life, feel free to drop me an email or a personal message, and I'd love to hear
Group therapy.
Group therapy, that's what it's like. In fact,
yeah. And I like that it's a closed group as well. So what I post, my friends or other family members or colleagues that I work with, like it's got nothing to do with them, and I'd rather share it with people that understand.
Yeah, exactly. Other than if your family, like you said, you've got sisters, if they join the group and then they can read it.
Yeah, I have sent them. I said, hey, join. So they're pretty keen. I don't know if they have already. But...
Look, my brother joined the group, and we've had some falling outs over this over the last few months, and in fact, just the other day, you know, I thought things were getting back on track, but he just thinks that we're all full of crap. You know, that there's just nothing affected from our father who served in Vietnam, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know. But anyway, we keep pushing forward. Now, I believe from your email that you sent me that you went to a reunion earlier on this year. You would like to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I think it was about every 5 years, 5RA were holding reunions. We'd never been to one and didn't really know they existed until kind of recent. Again, sort of stumbled across it by accident. So we reached out to the gentleman that was in charge organising and just said, well, hey, Dad passed but served. You know, we would really love to come along. Don't want to offend anyone, certainly don't want to upset anyone, and understand if it's not the done thing. The reply was an overwhelming, please come, we would love to have you. So I filled out the forms, did all that, and it was held on the Gold Coast, which was an even bigger bonus, so it was not too far to go.
Just down the highway.
Just down the highway, yep. So though I did get the timing wrong and I got there an hour early because it was.
No, that's the right COVV thing to do. Find your parking, find your restaurants, go to it. That's perfect timing.
Yes. So that was good. So we got there. They had a memorial thing first. They had an unveiling of a new plaque, speeches, that sort of stuff. And then they moved on to sort of like a reception hall where it was a meal and drinks and all that sort of stuff. And they're all broken into their companies. So C company was here, B company, blah, blah, blah. So it was my mum and my two sisters and I. And in the lead up to it, I had requested from Mum and Dad a Hollywood slides that we used to get tortured with when we were kids, and Dad would pull out the old projector and make us watch them over and over again. So I always wondered whether, you know, any of Dad's old platoon was, you know, still in contact, or were they even still alive? So I decided to rummage through them, and I converted some to photos. I popped them in an album, and I thought I'll take it with me, and who knows, maybe on the off chance some of these guys will recognise themselves, you know, 50 years ago. So we got there. It was a little bit awkward at first because we didn't know where to sit, and obviously these guys kept in contact over the years, so they're all mates and sitting together. And anyway, this lovely lady came over and approached us, and she said, oh, hi, blah, blah, blah. My husband's, you know, they would be company, but, and I explained our little story, and she said, can I please have your album? I'd be happy to pass it around. I said, sure, no problem. In the meantime, well, then she said, the gentleman over there, he's the one that organised it. Go and have a chat with him, and he might point you in the right direction as well. So I went and found the guy, and I realised this is a gentleman that I had initially emailed back when Dad first passed away. And over the years, sort of a random email here and there, hey, you know, do you have any information on where Dad might have been based? Or there's the old, where they used to go for R&R in Bung Tau, Peter So Club or something, I can't remember what it was called. Because we had some photos, but we were trying to like sort of get them in context of where he would have been. And anyway, it turned, the man that I went to speak with was the guy that I had been emailing for the last 20 odd years. And of course that was a little emotional. So we were hugging and going, oh my God, it's you, and all that sort of stuff. And then we went back to the table, and this gentleman sort of was sitting, like I was here and the very next table, and those guys were sitting on the same sort of curve of the table as us, but on their table. And this gentleman sort of, I just caught out of the corner of my eye, kind of like popped up out of his chair, and he sort of looked, and I looked, and he goes, it's me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I was like, you? And he's going, it's me. And he says, I remember your dad very well. Sorry.
Never be sorry.
No,
You're making me cry too, so don't be sorry.
Okay, so the three gentlemen, like he and then the other two guys that were sitting next to him, it was a photo of three guys sitting in their tent, obviously back in base, and they're kind
you
of...
have the photo there? You have the photo you can show me?
I'll try to keep talking and try to rummage and find which.
Rummage through it. And,
yes. And the three guys in that photo were the three guys sitting next to each other, like they were all there at the very next table to us.
wow.
So there was lots of hugging and tears and rearranging of chairs and sitting together, and drinks were flowing, and they were just blown away that I had these photos of them that they'd never seen before.
Wow, what a privilege for them also.
Yeah, like it was, and they were, my thought was when I walked away from the event, I thought, I just felt knowing that if these guys were half the guys they were back then my dad was in bloody good company.
Yeah.
They were good folks.
Awesome.
And they were just so welcoming to us, and we swapped mobile numbers and that sort of stuff. So, we had a couple of text messages in between. I'll just try and pull this photo out. It's kind of stuck. But yeah, and then so that, of course, I don't know if you can see that photo.
Yes. And so which one's your dad?
Also, these aren't my dad. So my dad's not in this photo. It was just a photo my dad had taken. They're the three blokes. So I also have on my phone, because we kind of got them to reenact that photo, and I got them to sit.
Oh, please tell me that they didn't take off their top, the guy in the middle.
No, well, trust me, that conversation came up. Yeah,
so one more reenactor. You did say the beers were flowing, so anything can happen when vets get together and drink.
That's absolutely right. So I think it's like this one here. So I'll try to turn it, and there we go. So I hope these gentlemen don't mind, but that's them now.
Oh, wow. I'll get you to send me a copy of that, and I'll put it up. So it's nice
absolutely. Sure, no problem. So it was just some of the stories they told, more of the light-hearted side of things, and just, they remember Dad. Dad actually, he stood on a landmine that didn't discharge properly. So he was wounded. I think they were just out on patrol when that happened. It wasn't actually in the middle of a battle or anything with contact or whatever they call it. But one of the gentlemen said he recalled he was there when it happened, and he said that, Dad had a bit of a temper, and he had that before, going away to Vietnam or anything. He was, he had auburn hair, so he had a bit of a temper to go with it. Not bad temper, he was quick to temper. And they said, he was laying there on the ground, and obviously his back and leg, they're all bleeding and everything, and he's swearing and carrying on, and nobody was game enough to touch him. So they said they just threw a sandbag on his back. So I'm not touching him. I don't want anything to do with it. And apparently then the chopper came in, and he was taken out, and he was swearing and carrying on the whole entire way. And I think his parting words, and the gentleman I spoke to, he said, I'll remember it to this day. He says, "This effing army shits me." So
yeah.
So that was sort of one of the stories that they told. It was more the stuff that they got up to when they were in R&R, and it was good to see them. Was that
really good kind of closure? Because I know you said that you lost your dad when you were quite young, and growing up without him, and then coming around these three gentlemen who, served a lot of time and shared such a horrific time with him. Was that like some good closure for you?
Absolutely. I couldn't put it any better than that. It was closure, like knowing that he was just with good people. And I don't know if you had a chance to read, I sent you one or two letters that Dad had sent home to his mum, and what he wrote to my mum, they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend or anything then, they were just friends, and obviously married, and here I am. But he mentioned a few times in there, the importance, or just having good mates with him, and then getting stuff from home made things easier for him. And he, I think at one point he says to tell his sister that she better write to him because he'll be annoyed because things get real scary over there, or over here, that's his words. So yeah, just having that contact. But for us, so when you read those letters and then and then you meet these people and you go, well, it was a horrible time, and in the end, the guilt for my dad was horrendous. He struggled with it a lot, and in particular when he was in hospital after stepping on the mine, his C Company and his platoon in particular were out on a patrol, and they had contact, and his best mate was severely wounded, and Dad got the chance to visit him in hospital, but he passed away the next day from his wounds. And Dad never forgave himself for not being there. He felt like if he was there, then his friend would be okay. That was his biggest thing. He just, he hated that. He felt like he'd let his men down. So,
and
so
he was
for
only
us,
like 20 years of age. That was such a hard thing.
19. Yeah, he was 19.
Yeah, to deal with and to carry that guilt. I mean, I did read some of your letters. They were quite hard to comprehend and to understand.
You translate it.
But one thing that really got me, and it actually broke me down, to be honest, was that, I'll get teary again just thinking of it. He said that when all this is over, I might be able to, I might become a man before I turn 21.
Yeah, because of what he'd seen and done. And
I'm like, oh my goodness, like 19, 20 years of age over there fighting that. And he wrote back that I might become a man before I'm 21. Yeah. I mean, he was well and truly a man. He was such a man to go over there and to fight the war. I work with a lot of young people, and I see like 19, 20-year-old guys now, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you have literally no idea what our fathers did when they were your age. And I'm like, if there was a war now, like half of them would bugger off. They wouldn't even join up or anything like that. Was your dad, did he join up, or did his ping pong war number came out?
No, he was, and fought with my grandma a lot. He was adamant that he was going to be a soldier. So I believe 1967 was when he first signed up. And then obviously did, where did they go, like Kapuka and all that, did all his training and that sort of stuff. And then, that's what he always wanted to be. And against my better judgment, and I sincerely hope I do not end up regretting this, I have a 14-year-old son who has joined the cadets. I don't want him to have anything to do with that life, because not that mine was a bad life. My dad, I couldn't ask for a better one. He was, he took us fishing and did stuff, and just, he was a good dad, and loved us to bits. Like I think you talked a little bit about it before, and some of the comments I had seen, and people talk about, they had a really bad upbringing and it was horrible and whatever. Look, I remember arguments, and I do remember, Dad losing it sometimes, but it in no way overshadows my childhood or negatively affected my life. I think everything that I do, that I've taken away, and maybe it's because I lost Dad that I feel like I have to be a better person, like to honour his memory, and because he was so big on justice and loyalty and don't dare quit, and your mates are everything, and obviously he's instilled that in us, and we've never missed an Anzac Day. Vietnam Veterans Day. We are there standing tall. We used to argue every year about who's wearing Dad's medals. So I eventually went and got my own set, got a replica made. So the other two sisters fight about it. But yeah, I don't know. I totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, I don't know where we were.
That's okay. That's right. So, like with your son, look, I can understand
Yeah,
that
sorry.
it's such a hard thing. I mean, if they join up and then, if we live in such an unstable world at the moment with everything that's going on, that you think, I don't want to live through that, and see from a different side of things, seeing what like your dad's mum would have had to deal with if they went off to war. And I mean that it's a whole different trauma of war, the PTSD of living with a vet coming back and dealing with all the demons from the war that he has to deal with, or sitting at home with the unknown and all that. I'm actually going to be interviewing later today, and it will be up later in the week, of a wife of a Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
So
that would be
really looking forward to that. A bit nervous actually of interviewing her, and she's going to be telling us about what it was like being at home with her loved one over in the war. So,
okay.
wow,
I'm looking forward to that one.
It'd be very touching. So tell me a little bit about how you got these letters, and have you combed through all of them? I know in the email you said you're trying to put them into some date order and all that.
Yeah.
And what's some of the biggest things that you've got out of it?
I think the biggest thing, so I came across, and Mum used to have this old port that, oh my God, she's like a bit of a hoarder. It's got every birthday card I've ever had in my life, or my school report cards, stuff like that. So I asked her to go through and pull out all the letters, and which she did. She gave them to me in a nice little pink box. And I thought I'll try to put them in some kind of date order so I can read them, and then they're kind of like a little bit more in context, and reading and jumping backwards and forwards, because there is a stack that are to Mum, and then there's a stack to my grandma, and I think one or two to my grandpop. The ones to his mum were very, there's nothing to worry about, there's nothing to see here, everything's good, I'm fine, please ask his sister or other brothers to write me a letter, or I got your parcel, thank you, it's awesome to get stuff from home. The ones he wrote to my mum were, I found, a lot different. And he did mention in one of them, he did actually say, I don't say these things in my other letters because I know I can confide in you and trust you. And, that he mentions, just, I think what probably made me the saddest was, Mum had obviously write to him, and they've been down the coast, or they've been to some party or whatever, some event. And I think one letter he said something about, you're out having a good time with all those long-haired boys. He said, I wish I was one of those long-haired boys.
Oh my goodness.
That really cut. I just thought, I wish you had been too. So just wishing, but he, and then he in the next sentence he'd say, but I've got a job to do, and it might as well be me, so I'll get on with it and I'll do it. But damn, I'm looking forward to coming home. And he seemed very positive about that, like he knew he was coming. Like, well, I guess you don't want to think otherwise, but when I get home, not if I get home, or like when I get home. And and then there was some funny stories about on their R&R, and they wrecked the place, and the locals weren't very happy, and he spent a lot more money than he wanted to, and that
bloody
sort of
teenagers.
So that, but I could tell the tone changed from the beginning leading through, and obviously he does things, please don't ask me about the things I've seen, or he said, because I never want to talk about them again. And he didn't. He was very he was very proud. Don't get me wrong. He was there every Anzac Day. You know, he had his medals all polished up, and even like one of his, before he passed away, he was a transport driver, and he would he'd buy army boots, and he would polish. I remember him sitting there in the lounge polishing his boots, so they were like you could see your reflection in them.
Ugly, yeah.
Yeah, so he'd wear them to work every day, and it was like for him, I don't know whether it was a front, and I don't know, but that was his thing. So yeah, and then as we got older, he changed a lot. It was like, and Mum did say once that because he was fiercely protective of us, like almost to the point, like we weren't allowed to have push bikes because he was worried we were going to fall off and hurt ourselves.
Oh.
Yeah, and like Dad would get home at 6, so after school Mum would say, go out and play in the street. Dad would never let us do that. And she said, get home before 6 o'clock or you're on your own. Like if your dad cracks it, then that's on you. I'm giving you the freedom, but you need to be home because that's what your dad expects. And I don't blame him in a way, you know, 3 little girls running around. I'm sure we were the cause of more than a few grey hairs, especially as we got older. But he, I think, felt like he was not losing us, but he was letting go because we were older, getting into long-term relationships, that sort of thing. So he started drinking a lot more than he normally would. And then he would just get upset. He'd want to watch movies. So we used to, another thing we were tormented by, having to watch, you know, movies like Wild Geese, or I don't know, whatever war movie you can think of. Dad used to watch them a lot. And then the TV show Tour of Duty, when that was on, I don't know if you ever remember that show.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Yeah, he loved it, but I think he loved more picking it apart, going, you'd never do that. They can't be doing that. Like, that's not allowed, and things like that. It has to be by the book. Yeah, so, and he changed. It was very quick change. And it now, I think the guilt baton has been passed on to my sisters and I. Wish we'd done more. Wish we'd recognised what he was.
Yeah, you didn't see the signs leading up to his death, or
no,
it happened quite fast. He started drinking and all that.
Yeah,
but,
it was a pretty rapid decline into. It's just like for him, it was like all-consuming guilt, like nothing. And I mean, we're saying we love you, Dad. Like, you're our hero. Nothing you could ever have done, and I don't care what you did. Nothing would ever change the way we feel about you. And I know he loved hearing that, but sometimes I don't know. I think when your soul's blackened the way those guys were and what they had to do and see, and it's hard to get past it. So he well, what we would like to put down as attempted suicide, but the report came back, he had an underlying condition which we had no idea about. But because of that, like, so the combination of the two, he took a load of pills and did not wake up after that. So that was probably the shittiest thing in my life. But you know, we got to keep going, and we honour him the best way we can.
And it's stories like that, Michelle, that really touch my heart and drive me to get these stories out there. I mean, there's so many people. Look, I get 1 or 2 camps when I talk about what I'm doing, to people, and especially the people who are not COVV, so they don't understand like the guilt, the trauma, the self-blame, like when dad's having a bad moment and we've got to walk on eggshells, there's something that we've done, or, you know, I could have done more. All those things, they do affect you, you know. It's not so much that, okay, maybe if I know there are some people in the group that their dad had more of a violent physical trait to his characteristics, and that it wasn't a pleasant place to grow up in that household.
No, I don't imagine. It breaks my heart thinking that.
And but a lot of us, it's from a different point of view. It's the psychological, the emotional detachment, and that guilt of, I could have done more. You know, I'm lucky I still have my dad at the moment, but there are others out there that don't have their dad. And one thing I just want everyone to know, that you're not to blame for any of this. You're not to blame for how your dad reacts or anything. I mean, it's the horrific events from the Vietnam War, that these young kids who are still growing up and trying to develop mentally. You know, they say that us guys, we don't develop mentally until our late 20s or 30s or whatever. I mean, and these kids, they are kids, they're 19, 20, 21 years of age, over in a foreign country. It's probably the first time they've ever left the country and gone anywhere. And they're in a war zone where people are trying to kill them and they've got to kill others. I mean, that has to affect them so bad. And then coming back, dealing with that, it affects us. And that's what drives me to get these messages out there for people to understand why we're like this, and why we want other people to tell our story. So thank you so much for sharing today.
That's okay, my pleasure.
Is there anything else that you want to share that's on your heart, that you feel like it's a burning desire to say at this stage?
I don't know. I don't know. I probably will after we end this, but I really appreciate what you're doing.
No, thank you.
And I wish I'd found all this stuff a long time ago. I know you said your sort of group's only been since November, but there's other ones that I've seen, and I'm like, I had no idea this stuff existed, and I wish it had have. Maybe it might have helped a little bit more, but I think that also comes with maybe wisdom and age, and you realise now you can put things into perspective a little bit better, and understand. And when you've got your own kids now too, it's, you know, you gotta just think about things a little bit more. So that's it. I think I've rounded it.
Before more tears come.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I do have tissues just in case. And I did forewarn you before this happened. So
You did. But you know what? I expect some emotions to come up, because we are talking about something that's dear to us. I mean, our own dads, and what they went through, and then seeing them having to fight those demons at the end. Thank you so much for getting up nice and early to have this interview with me today. And I look forward to seeing everything that you're going to share within our group. You'll find that if you haven't already found so far, we're a very loving and accepting group here, so that you are accepted for who you are and for everything that you have gone through. I've read so many posts, and literally I could just change that name out and type in my name, and that's my story. So many similarities that happen with all the different COVVs. So I look forward to getting to meet you personally, and then talk a lot more, and to a lot of everyone else within the group too. So guys, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for tuning in once again and watching this, and please, after this from this interview, it's really on my heart to say, just really look out for your mates, regardless if they're from a Vietnam veteran or anyone. But if you're seeing any signs of depression or some different characteristics in people from the normal, please reach out and just say, hey, you know, mate, and sit down, have a coffee with them, have a beer with them, and reach out. Sometimes you never know, it could be just that one person that reaches out to them that can change their whole psyche and just where they're at and stop them from doing something which will affect, you know, many generations onwards. So there's Open Arms, there's Soldier On that you can reach out to. Jay Scott, one of our unbelievable members, has got a new site. I think it's everybody's business. So he talks about how he lost his sister to suicide. That people can go on there and to share memories of those. So I'll throw the link up here so everyone can join in on that. But please look out for one another. I want everyone to be safe. I don't want to hear any tragic stories that come through here, and we're all in this together, and we'll get our stories out there. So until next time, keep loving one another and be safe, and we'll talk soon. See you guys. Bye.